Well, let's bring in our political analyst and professor at Curtin University, Joe Siracusa, for a morning chat on a Monday. Good morning to you, Joe. So you've got to hand it to those soldiers in Mariupol for digging in, don't you?
Yes, good morning, Pete. Well, look, the Ukrainians are showing the human spirit that always takes place in warfare. I mean, people do fight to the death, particularly if you're defending your own turf. But what bothers me the last week is that as we frame everything in terms of good and bad, evil and good and that kind of thing, it's getting harder and harder to imagine a compromise. If President Biden or President Zelensky or anybody started to make some diplomatic offers right now, there'd be an enormous push by either side of them not to accept it. So it's getting harder and harder. And also, we're getting one step closer to an enormously bad situation. That is, these people are talking about low-yield nuclear weapons like they could be used. And of course, Pete, they could be used. That's why they were developed over the years. They've been developing these things for 30 years so they can use them in a low-level way. And so we have to worry about that. And Putin's made it very clear, of course, that the United States and NATO, he's fighting them at the same time. As far as Putin's concerned, he's at war with NATO. NATO, on the other hand, has made it very clear that if Putin steps in their territory, they'll be at war with him. And so, none of this, Pete, saves the lives of a single Ukrainian. So I heard some guy in Washington say the other day that President Biden is prepared to defend Ukraine to the last Ukrainian. I mean, it doesn't help these people at all that we're watching these things on the sideline. I don't care how well we arm them. And from these pictures you're showing in your package here, it's quite clear that Putin has wrecked the place. There isn't going to be much left of Ukraine when we're done.
The Greens don't see China as a threat to Australia and have no reservations over its security pact with the Solomon Islands. The party's peace and disarmament spokesperson told The Australian the government's concerns over the Solomons-China deal were racist. It was also said that the future of Taiwan was not a direct concern for Australia or the United States. Labor had been attempting to water down national security as an election issue by matching the coalition's defence commitments, but the Greens called for military spending to be slashed and the AUKUS agreement to be cancelled. They also want the nation's nuclear submarine and hypersonic missile programs to be axed, Pine Gap closed, and US Marines out of Darwin. Australia is being warned that Chinese ships and aircraft will arrive on the Solomon Islands within 4 weeks, so during the election campaign, following the signing of a deal between China and the Solomon Islands. The move has caused significant concern within the federal government as the opposition called out the Prime Minister for not stopping the deal earlier. Experts say the Chinese government will be sending military forces to the Solomons during the election campaign. And joining me live now is the Defence Minister, Peter Dutton. Minister, good morning to you. How is it not a failure of your government that this security deal was signed?
Good morning, Pete. Well, as we know, China is a very different country today than they were even 5 years ago. We know that they've now got 20 points of military presence in the South China Sea. That's not been a failure of Australia or a failure of the United States or any other country. That's been the sovereign decision of China. We've seen them take back a port that they built in Sri Lanka. We're seeing corrupt payments being made to countries in Africa. They're on a pathway, and for some reason Anthony Albanese always wants to believe that China is not in the wrong and that Australia is. And I think at the moment, for cheap political, crass reasons, you've got Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese making ill-informed statements, not backed up or informed by the intelligence that the government's received. And I think what they're demonstrating to people at the moment is that shooting from the hip is actually damaging our international reputation, and it, I think, shows that they're not fit to occupy the offices that they're seeking at this election.
And joining me live now is one of them, the Kennedy MP Bob Katter. Bob, good to see you. Thanks for your time this morning. So I do want to start off with this deal that has basically been signed off overnight. China pushing ahead with that security pact with the Solomon Islands. As a Queenslander, how worried are you about that?
North Queenslander, and maybe it is a northern perspective, but if you can't see the Chinese coming at you, you're blind. I mean, why would they want a deal and to set up a base in the Solomon Islands? Well, there can only be one answer to that question, because they intend to be the power in the South Pacific. And 80% of our iron ore goes to China. And really, there's nowhere else China can get it from. Now,
so what do you
if
propose?
you have a port in Darwin and an air base at Merredin, just outside of Perth, what do you think they're for? Whether they develop some trade with Australia? What conceivable point would you have in owning the port of Darwin, or Global Switch, which has access to all of our armed forces information? Why would you want to own those assets unless you have a very, very territorial ambitions, very strong territorial ambitions? And we are the little bunny rabbit being swept on by the hawk here.
And the Prime Minister has offered his well wishes to Anthony Albanese. Mr Morrison tweeted last night, "I wish Anthony Albanese all the best for his recovery after testing positive to COVID. Everyone's experience with COVID is different, and as Labor's campaign continues, I hope he does not experience any serious symptoms." The two leaders shook hands during the Sky News Courier Mail People's Forum debate on Wednesday night. That was the first of the campaign, although Scott Morrison had COVID not so long ago, so he will be fairly well immune to that, regardless of that handshake. Live now to our political editor, Andrew Clennell, who's live with the Prime Minister. G'day, Andrew.
Thank you, Pete. Prime Minister, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Andrew.
So Anthony Albanese has COVID. Does this help your campaign?
Well, I just hope he'll be fine. I had COVID some months ago and sent him some friendly tips about how you can manage it. And so hopefully his symptoms won't be too bad, and I'm sure he'll keep on with the campaign, just as when I had COVID, I kept on with the governing. And just like 50,000 Australians are getting COVID at the moment, and they push on. They've got to get kids to school, run their businesses, look after their work responsibilities. I'm sure Anthony will do the same, and will formally rejoin out there on the trail after the 7 days. And I hope his symptoms aren't too bad, and I wish him well.
Queen has missed the traditional Easter Sunday service along with the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall. The monarch had been suffering mobility issues ahead of the event at St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle. Other members of the British royal family, including the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and two of their children, attended the service. Queen turns 96 this Thursday, reached her Platinum Jubilee in February. Prince Harry has opened up in his latest TV interview, saying he misses his family and wants to make the world a better place for his kids. Speaking at the Invictus Games in the Netherlands, the Duke of Sussex says he feels his mother's guidance more than ever, but stopped short of saying that he missed his father and his brother, Princes Charles and William. After visiting the Queen, he claims she's on great form and her humour is as great as ever.
Being with her, it was great. It was just so nice to see her. You know, she's on great form. She's always got a great sense of humour with me, and I'm just making sure that she's, protected and got the right people around.
Well, you make her laugh. That's what she always says. Did you do it again?
Yes, yeah, I did. Both Meghan and I had tea with her, so it was really nice to catch up with her.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson will face a parliamentary investigation into lockdown-breaking parties that he attended at Downing Street. A UK Labor Party-led motion to investigate allegations the Prime Minister misled the House of Commons when he denied lockdown rules were broken by the gatherings. Conservative MPs had initially been instructed to delay the vote pending an investigation by the Metropolitan Police, but were then told by Conservative leadership they could vote however they wanted on the motion. Mr Johnson maintains his innocence, saying that he has nothing to hide.
People were saying, look, this looks as though we're trying to stop stuff coming out. I didn't want that. I didn't want people to be able to say that. I don't want this thing endlessly to go on. But if I have absolutely nothing, frankly, to hide.
Producers on the film Rust have been fined more than $183,000 after cinematographer Helena Hutchins was accidentally shot dead by actor Alec Baldwin. The state of New Mexico said the film's producers showed plain indifference to recognised hazards associated with use of firearms on set. It said the film production managers took little to no action to address two misfires before the fatal shooting. The production company is vowing to appeal those findings. Russia says it's test-launched an intercontinental ballistic missile, saying it would give Moscow's enemies something to think about. Vladimir Putin was shown on TV being told by the military that the missile had been launched and hit its targets in the eastern parts of Russia. The West has known about the new addition to its nuclear arsenal and had expected a test launch. But it comes as a warning amid a time of extreme geopolitical tension due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The US President has announced more than $1 billion in extra military aid to be sent to Ukraine, pledging to accelerate assistance in response to the new phase of Russia's invasion. Joe Biden met Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington, D.C., where they discussed further support for the European nation. The US President will also pledge an additional $500 million in direct economic assistance to the Ukrainian government and will impose a ban on Russian ships in US ports.
This package includes heavy artillery weapons, dozens of howitzers, and 144,000 rounds of ammunition. We're not sitting on the funding that Congress has provided for Ukraine. We're sending it directly to the front lines of freedom, to the fearless and skilled Ukrainian fighters who are standing in the breach. You got to admit, must be amazed at the courage of this country.
Manchester United star Cristiano Ronaldo has announced the death of his baby boy. He and long-term partner Georgina Rodriguez released a statement earlier this morning saying it's with our deepest sadness that we have to announce that our baby boy has passed away. It's the greatest pain that any parents can feel. Only the birth of our baby girl gives us the strength to live this moment with some hope and happiness. We'd like to thank the doctors and nurses for all their expert care and support, and we are devastated at this loss and we kindly ask for privacy at this difficult time. The couple confirmed in December that they had been expecting both a boy and a girl in a gender reveal video that featured all of their other children. The Prime Minister has been criticised for saying he and his wife Jenny were blessed to have children who aren't disabled while answering a question at last night's People's Forum about the NDIS.
Jenny and I have been blessed. We've got 2 children that haven't had to go through that. And so for parents with children who are disabled, I can only try and understand your aspirations for those children. And I think that is the beauty of the National Disability Insurance Scheme.
Joining me live now is the Labor Senator Katie Gallagher. Senator, good morning. Thanks for your time this morning. So I'm sure that he didn't mean that to be divisive, but it's ended up that way and attracted criticism, particularly from yourself.
Yeah, look, in politics we respond to things. I'm a mother as well. So, when I heard that, of course, my mother instinct responded. And, I have a child with autism and I feel blessed to have her. And I thought the Prime Minister's comments were insensitive and offending to those of us who have our lives enriched by children with autism and with other disabilities. So, I can only explain it like that, politician / mother and having a kid that she's amazing, and to hear a Prime Minister say that they were blessed not to have one, hits you.
So do you think he needs to apologise for that?
Well, it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt. I've seen so, it's not just me. It's many other people who either have a disability or have children with disabilities who have responded to that comment. So,
right.
It certainly wouldn't hurt.
Let's bring in Senator Amanda Stoker now for some reaction. Senator, good morning. So Katie Gallagher even says that the Prime Minister should apologise for that comment. Should he?
The Prime Minister was expressing kindness and empathy for the experience of someone in the room. The faux outrage that assumes that the Prime Minister counting his blessings is somehow a slight on the blessings of another is madness. The Prime Minister was showing genuine care and empathy for the experience of the person who was asking the question, and more than words, he demonstrates that empathy by fully funding the NDIS, something that Labor couldn't even hope to do. They're big on the aspirational ideas and hopeless on the follow-through. Judging by his actions, he's fully funded the resources needed to help people of all walks of life achieve their very best.